you want to start us off with just kind of how this project even was conceived?
So probably 5 years ago, somebody from the chamber reached out to Carl to do a mural on our back wall. And he was gung-ho about it, he said yes to it, and then it kind of evaporated. Like, all of a sudden, this artist wasn't around anymore, and the idea kind of went away. Dana took a trip, Janesville maybe or something, and was driving around and saw all these beautiful murals on businesses. And
Can you tell us who Dana is?
Dana is now our store manager. She just took over for Kevin.
Okay, cool,
So
thanks.
she's been with the store for 20 years. So she came back to the store and was like, Amber, we should totally, because Dana and I, our second title is managers of fun. We are always the ones planning extra things for Miller's. She was like, we totally need to get a mural on our back wall. And I was like, that would be fun. I was like, I just happen to maybe know a guy who I just saw did a mural in New Glarus. Chad has a beautiful mural in New Glarus if you guys have not been out there to see that one. So I messaged him on Facebook and said like, hey, I know you just did this great mural in New Glarus. Are you willing to come and check out our space and see if maybe this would be a project that you would want to take on? He messaged me back, sure, like let's get together, and it was a few meetings, back and forth meetings of like what exactly the wall would entail, time-wise and all of the details of it, and we finally came to a point where we were ready to get the design going. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, actually, please.
Okay. So during our meeting, before our meeting, Dana and I knew that we wanted a word, and we didn't want it to be Miller's. We didn't want it to be just about Miller's grocery store. We wanted it to mean something. So several words were thrown back and forth: Verona, welcome to Verona, greetings, all of these different things. And then Dana and I were like, community. Like, it's a perfect word. The Millers have been in the Verona community for 100+ years, and we wanted to showcase what community means to us, as well as what Verona means to us. So we started with community. It's a big word, so it was able to reach a lot of the wall. And then the picture finding process was happening. So Dana and I probably spent a good 3 or 4 hours at the Verona Library trying to find pictures. We asked Carl, who can be kind of a tough one to crack once in a while, to go through some pictures that he might have had at home. He offered to bring in his totes and totes of photos for us, but that didn't ever happen. So luckily, we also reached out to Jesse, who was able to get us a great collection of pictures. And so that is how we got the pictures in the word community. Then with Chad coming aboard for the design, our thought was that we were going to have one picture for each letter. So we had actually come up with 9 pictures. But then looking at it and talking to Chad more about it, it made more sense to make some of these pictures two letters wide instead of just one. So that's how we got these.
Yeah, I remember, I look back, it was April of last year when you emailed me and said, hey, do you guys have old pictures? I was like, do we? Going back to our mission and our collections, we've been really collecting a lot of stuff since 2016, and all the pictures, I think I sent you like 80 pictures to pick from, just the ones, because he said things that represent parts of the community, not just, oh, here's Miller's, here's a shopping aisle or whatever. And that came from a lot of you who've donated pictures or who have put us in contact with people who, and there's Jerry. Jerry, this is your picture, by the way. Jerry's in the back there. He took this picture and the one's on the last slide. So I want to give you credit. But yeah, that was exciting. And then I kind of didn't hear from you for a bit. And I was thinking, which ones are they going to pick? So anything else you want to mention about the process, or?
Well, it was just a lot of back and forth with Chad. Like, he would show us a design and we would say, we don't really like that color, or we didn't like that font, or we didn't like whatever, and then Chad came to us with like this actual design with community and the colors, and we knew that that's what we wanted. Like, once we saw it, it was like, yep, that's it, that's the one.
Amber, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Marble, Minnesota.
And what brought you to, where do you live right now, in Glarus?
Yes.
Did you come here to work at Miller's or did something else?
I did not. No.
Okay, what brought you?
I had a friend that her dad lived here, and after graduation, we took the leap and jumped to Wisconsin.
Okay, and when did you start working at Miller's? I don't know if you said.
2009.
And what do you do there?
I am now currently the grocery manager. I just took over for Dana.
Okay, congrats.
Thanks.
So Chad, now before we move on to the actual pictures, when did you know you wanted to be an artist?
I have been drawing since I could walk. Really as a way to express myself, but also a way to stay busy. My mind races a lot, and that's just a good way to get a lot of ideas out.
What's your favorite medium to do?
Aerosol, so spray paint, and I also really enjoy sculpting, but that doesn't sell as good, so so it pretty much stays in my personal collection, but I really love to sculpt as well.
Would have been tough to do a sculpture this size, right?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say if you do some like foam or something like that, I think they do on large scales. But
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Madison. I was born at St. Mary's, moved around a lot as a kid. Grew up mostly on the east side, and then I moved to New Glarus about 9 years ago for the love of my life. So I'm married now there, and that's where we raised our kids, and it's a good community.
When did you start doing art as a job? Is that your primary job, or do you have a different day job and you do art on the side?
It is. I am a graphic design, so that entails a lot of things. It could be website design, it could be a logo, a pamphlet for a business, and a lot of the clients that I have are just friends from high school or people I grew up with that now own businesses. So I stay pretty busy in addition to, when the weather's nice, being able to put out large-scale murals.
Yeah. What do you remember? Can you tell your side of whatever mentioned about getting contacted? You told me before the meeting you were a little bit nervous when sometimes people just come at you with something. What was that like?
Sure. And I guess I forgot to mention too, I went to school, I got my graphic design degree here in Madison as well. I went to a few schools, but that's what got me started in. I started freelancing really in 2011. I was painting for teen centers and things like that beforehand when I was younger, but when I got my degree, I started a different level of professionalism, and it enabled me to take on jobs like this and feel secure with that.
Cool.
I can't hear you.
Can you guys hear okay, or do we need to?
Am I not close enough there?
Okay,
Apologize.
that's probably
Is that
better.
better?
What was your first paid gig when you got out of school and your first of size?
Well, I did teen centers when I was 16, and it gave me the confidence to really want to promote myself.
Yeah.
And be able to go into believing in myself and really want to invest in myself and take myself as serious as I wanted other people to. So back to how it came about when I was contacted by Amber. She reached out through Facebook. That's kind of the best way to get a hold of me because I don't have a website. I get so many inquiries that it's not something I really want to promote. It's really a personal thing for me. And when she reached out, it was a community thing, and I did feel that personal request. And so I gave it a shot to meet up, and the things that they do for the community it was something where I knew I had to take on the job. And it was really easy going from start to finish. We were all about how can we make this about the community? Not really a Miller's things, but what have we contributed that means something to the community, and how do we tie into the community, and what does the community mean for us? And so they narrowed down the pictures quite a bit before I had to pick from, and I'm thankful because I couldn't have done 80 pictures, but they gave me about 10 that were really meaningful, and they discussed kind of what it meant for Miller's and some of the people that they know in the community. And so the layout of the word community it actually was really easy to do. And later on when we discuss things, I'll say about how I feel the community responded while I was doing that. But as far as the background, we wanted to make that kind of fun too. It's how do you get a huge word on an even larger wall and still make it seem appropriate for size and easy to read from the road. So all of these things were taken into account. I usually take my iPad and I'll take a picture before I start designing. Then I have a rough idea. But then the scaling becomes an issue because you're either off to the side or there's a fisheye on the lens. So we did a lot of measuring too to make sure the length and width matched. And I wanted I wanted their image to look about what they were going to see from the finished product to the best I could.
Yeah.
And I think I did that job.
And it does.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So nuts and bolts wise, just how you do this, is this the biggest mural you've done to date, or have you done another one of this size?
It is the biggest that I've done to date.
Okay.
And New Glarus is a close second, where it's a little taller and wraps around. It's not as wide, and the square footage is not as big as this. So yeah, largest.
What's the first step? Do you go with a pencil and you just start kind of outlining, or?
I do use chalk. It's kind of a little secret, because it's easy to wash off the wall. I can see the marks. The downfall is, if it's gonna rain before the next day, your chalk isn't gonna be there. So, it's just one day at a time, and, I try not to think about how long it's going to take me or how much work is in front of me. It really is, I've committed to this job and I want to see it to the end. So today I'll do as much as I can, and that's dictated by the day of work. So I tried to show up before the sun came up every day. I think I was there about 5 o'clock.
Before me, every
Yes.
day.
Sometimes earlier, depending, like I said, on weather, sometimes later, but I just wanted to make sure I was giving it my all. And for the days where it didn't work out, I'd have time to correct things, or I'd know where I needed to be for the next day. And, Carl provided the lift for me, so it was
nice.
so much easier. And, the team at Miller's really made it easy for me to carry out all the tasks from the moment I showed up till the time I left. If I needed anything that I might have forgot, or even the storage of my equipment, they were provided for me. And I can't say enough about how generous the team was to work with, and that's another reason why I knew I had to take on this. But every day is one day at a time.
Yeah.
I did start by measuring out the word community and spacing it out. Again, I do it on an iPad, so it's fairly accurate when I set it up on my design template to begin with. It's the square footage that you're going to see on the wall, so it might not look as fun in the beginning stages, but it's all laid out really methodically, and there is some math that goes into it, believe it or not.
So Jerry in the back there, took a couple pictures, and actually there were several where people were coming up and talking to you, so I don't know how you got this done, because I'm sure with people walking by, you must have been stopped constantly, but there it is, I think in the upper right. Can you tell us about that phase there? You've got the word up there, and you went with the grass next, looks like, huh? Or the grass was first?
Sure, so I guess the exact way that it was done was a base was put on very first of the top blue sky and then the bottom green for the grass. And you can see in the middle of the word how it's pretty much a straight line across. So we color matched. So
We got a laser pointer too if you want to hit that one.
Oh yeah, well we'll
Yeah,
see if I'm
button.
any good at that.
Okay.
Alright, so yeah, you can see here that there's a straight line, whereas right here in the grass it's wavy. And that's because we color matched. The person who did the base is not here today. His name is Jacob, and I believe he is hometown painting. Is that correct, Amber?
Correct.
Okay, and he's an awesome guy to work with
Aim this a
too.
little bit more your mouth. There you go. Perfect.
Sorry, everyone. But he was able to put the base on, and from there it made the measurements a lot easier to do. And once I had the layout done, I went one letter at a time to finish these pictures. You can see here I would really mark down every little bit that I needed to get done, and then one step at a time I would try to make it look like the photo. If something was off, it was a lot of back and forth with my eyes, and then correcting with paint. You can just go over the other color. So there's no shortcuts. It was a lot of work, a lot of effort. And then after the letters were complete, I was able to do the background a little bit more in full. You can see I have flowers here that are kind of like a mid-ground. But all of the background work that was done after the letters to really touch in a lot. I think I did do some of the base stuff actually. That was just to lay out the area, but I had to go over quite a bit just because of the spacing of the words and the photorealism, just to make sure that everything was where it needed to be. And then the marquee was one of the last things I did, along with the pond that has Carl and the fish in it. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
And do you remember what day or week you started, just so we get an idea of when this was created exactly? Or what month it was even?
June and July.
Okay, so it's June.
It was this started mid-June and then finished mid-July.
Well, you guys want to dive into each part of it?
Sure.
And the first picture we have we're gonna be heading east to west here, so left to right. Yeah, do you wanna talk about this image, the Easter eggs and?
Okay, so when we were trying to decide on things that were gonna go outside of the word community, I had said, we have to have Miller's Marquee in this. Like, this is one of my favorite things. When I moved to Verona, driving down Main Street and seeing that marquee lit up at night is like, it takes you back, like to old times, like this has always been one of my favorite things at Miller's. So with the marquee, we went back and forth about what we were gonna put in the letters, like do we put something, fresh produce or something? So we just decided on greetings from Verona. There wasn't anything really on here that said anything about Verona yet, so we wanted to do a greetings. If you look at the clock, it is 7:02, right?
Yeah, 1902.
7:02, which in military time is 1902, which is when Miller's was established. So just little things like that we wanted to make in little details. The shopping cart. So I personally wanted to have a selfie space on our mural. There's a lot of them in Nashville that are like butterfly wings and you can put your arms out. So this was something that we went back and forth on too. But the shopping cart meaningful to us because we still take your groceries out to your car. We always will, we always have. It's an important part of Miller's, getting to know our customers and hearing about their day. Just having that little extra minute or two with customers every time they come to the store, I think is really special. So, shopping cart selfie spot, like that was one of my favorite things too. In the shopping cart, that little white thing right there is a Topps baseball package, which we do not sell at Miller's, but we wanted to put it in there in memory of Greg.
Can you mention why for people who might not know?
I knew I was gonna cry. So Greg Miller owned Greg's Card Locker for many years, and he was an avid sports guy. So to throw sports into this big mural somehow wasn't like we couldn't just throw baseball players up there or football players. So we thought just some little meaning was even more special. So that is for Greg.
Was his shop right on the other side of that wall, or was it in a little bit?
No, the pharmacy's right there, so where the nail salon is right now.
That's where shop
his
was.
shop was, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Chad, do you wanna add anything, Chad, about this particular part of the mural? Any little fun parts you had, or was it really tough doing a little lettering there or on the card?
Sure. So while this is the first physical part of the wall, it was the last to be completed, one of the last to be completed. Because, doing the marquee it's symbolic of the first thing you see when you drive by Miller's, either side, because on the other side of the building there's a physical marquee there. And so the Easter egg for the time was something that we went back and forth because what time do you put on the marquee? So that was fun to do. The shopping cart too was something that was a little bit, I wouldn't say a challenge, but it was something I also wanted to take time on. That's the community interaction. That's where you can stand and be a part of the mural. So it did mean a lot to get even the grocery bag right and some of the things you might be shopping for in there, as well as the baseball card. And I didn't, like Amber said, I didn't want it to look like a specific player or anything like that. So it's a pretty generalized image, but it really brings out the meaning well.
I can't think of another place where they bring your groceries to your car. I'm told that at gas stations they used to fill up your car, which I don't believe, but I feel
I
like...
had a gas station on the Iron Range that,
Oh my gosh.
even when I was a kid,
They were filling it up.
they filled up.
Maybe, now, Mills will probably be here in 50 years, but I wonder if I'll be telling my grandkids about, there was this place that used to take your groceries out to
We'll still be there.
You'll still be there, okay, good. Cool, well, moving on to the next one. Here is the first image of the train depot. Amber, do you want to talk about why you selected this one?
So we were trying to find like the first picture of Verona. Like we wanted the first known thing that was something important to Verona. And as far as what we were told and what we found, this railroad depot was was that. Like, that's basically why we chose that one.
I mean, you couldn't have picked a more appropriate. I think of all the photos we have, I can't think of there might be some old family pictures that might predate 1882-ish, but this is kind of it for our collection as well.
Yeah. There was also one picture, I think, of guys at the railroad track, something like that.
Oh, they're actually in to the right of this picture. There's a couple of
Well, then maybe
guys
that's
just chilling.
Okay.
And there's one about a train too. So I think I'll just mention, do you mind if I work in the history stuff as we go,
Yep, go ahead.
across, since we are a historical society? There were some facts that we dug up and sent to y'all that this is an artifact. Did you know that? This was the handout you had at your
Yep,
opening, and it's
I
in
made
a protected bag, so it is, but I am still gonna use it today. The Chicago and Northwestern Railroad arrived in the early 1880s. It was one of the most impactful events to our early Verona history. As probably a lot of you know, the impact of a railroad can't be understated to a fledgling town's ability to thrive and grow. Before that, people were traveling by dirt road with air quotes, because there might be more dirt than road. So when you got a train depot, now you could get goods, travelers every day, a couple times a day. We also had, on the left there's a little bump out where our telegraph station eventually was, so we could send telegraphs back and forth. Uses of trains as modes of transportation declined in the mid to late 1900s as the trucking industry rose after World War II. And our tracks here, which is now, just so if anyone isn't, you probably know this is the Military Ridge biking trail now, and the original depot is a little bit behind where the shelter is, maybe about 10 feet behind where it was, but it was decommissioned in the 1980s and eventually turned into the bike trail. So yeah, excellent choice for image. Chad, how was painting this? Was this an easy one?
Just so everybody's aware, this is 100% spray paint, so this was not done with brushes at all. And I just wanted to mention that because some of these details, while it is a large wall, were pretty tough to get in there. But one thing that stands out to me about this slide is that I had people come to me and tell me that their family members had worked at the depot, and to get that kind of response from just spray paint, where you really bring back an emotional connection to somebody's childhood and someone's history, and to hear that, it really meant a lot for me. And there was other situations that happened too, other times that happened through other slides, but it's really impactful, and it said a lot to me about how appreciative the community was as I was doing this piece. And one other thing I want to mention is up top where it says Miller and Sons is a wooden plaque. And well, it might not be exact. It's a resemblance of the one they have in the store, which is one of the original signs. I believe that was from Stewart and Miller's.
Correct.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you get stopped every day while you're out there? Was it constant, or was it you'd have a day where you could actually just work?
That's another reason why I go in at 5 in the morning. I think it's really nice to be able to share that time with the community.
Yeah.
And I don't want to undervalue that in any sense. So I do really appreciate that people are fascinated with what I'm able to provide for the community. It was every day. The only times that I think it was bothersome was if I'm getting a line and then someone comes by and honks. But I'll jump a little bit. I think though it really expresses how much gratitude was given for the work, and
yeah,
it was every day.
Oh my gosh, great! And moving down to the next image, do you want to talk, Amber, about why you picked this one and what it is?
So this is Verona's old and new water towers, and I think for us, the symbol behind this was Verona's rapidly changing. But there is always going to be a history there. There's always going to be a history, there's always going to be stories, there's always going to be somebody that remembered that water tower. And even though this water tower may change in another 50 years, this was, it just meant past and present.
Oh, that's great. And this picture, which actually was hanging in the hallway of the Classic before it got torn down. When you went down to the restrooms, I spotted it there. I've never seen it anywhere else, but I grabbed a snapshot of that, which I love seeing up here. It was taken in 1973, and the original tank was 50,000 gallons in the original water tower, and it had served us since 1932 when we got our first public water and sewer system. So after 40 years of service, it was retired And so that was 50,000 gallons. The new one, which we still have, is 300,000 gallons. So you can see some growth of our town right there in those raw numbers. And this is we have, I think, 3 water towers now. This is the one next to the Caring Center on Westbourne Avenue. Who remembers the first water tower?
I do.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Man, I wish I could have saved a piece of that. Why didn't you guys grab a piece of it? Folks who were here in '73. That would have been awesome, but yeah, I didn't think about that. Well, great. Anything you want to mention about this one, Chad, or about painting this? Or?
Again, this one is all spray paint. There is a time where I've used marker throughout this piece, and I'll get to it later in a later slide. But trying to get some of those ladders, some of the platforms for construction, I mean, there was a lot that was in this picture that you don't really think of when you think it's a simple water tower, but this is the only letter that has a full image in it. Every other image is in 2 letters. So partly because M is a large letter, it can fit more in it, and partially because the main subject of this image is pretty easy to get into a smaller area. That's about it.
Awesome. And the next one, moving on down, we're now to the second M and the U. Amber, do you want to talk about this? This one seems kind of like a no-brainer. Was this the easiest one?
This was definitely the easiest one. When we saw this picture, we were like, well, that one's going to be front and center. It is the original Stuart Miller building. We loved the old gas pump, the old cars, and Chad definitely hit the nail on painting these. Like, when you go up really close to these, it definitely takes you back. Like, you can feel it.
Chad, tell us about this one. This was the hardest one.
As far as hard one goes, I think I like to just get into a zone when I'm working, and there's a process, and you follow the steps, and eventually it shows itself. So as far as difficult goes, I almost am channeling something other than myself, and I don't know how else to say it, but you get into a focus and go. But what I really do like about this is that it says a lot about the community. I mean, this was like a hub for everybody to get, whether it's medicine, food, gas. There was just so much to this point in the community. And I had another couple of people that had stopped by and said, my mother worked here, I used to shop there. And again, when you're drawing a picture and you hear these kind of comments that express where someone's been in life and you get an emotional response, it's powerful.
Yeah.
So one other thing to add about this slide is that on the awning where it says Stewart and Miller, that was done with a paint marker because it is way too small for an actual paint can to get, but everything else was done with spray paint, and it was meticulous, and that's part of the beauty in a mural is the amount of work and effort that is put into it. So I'm glad that I could be the one to express that for you guys.
Wow, you guys have hit on a couple key themes here. Amber, you mentioned, so I'm going to show at the end the actual pictures. We can zoom in. This one is from around 1941. We knew that because in the foreground there was a license plate with a date on it. Awesome, love it when history is that obvious for you. But this one is, so from 41, there were still people using horses in Verona in the early 40s. And you see the gas pump there on the right, but then on Winkleman's barbershop to the left, that rail you see in front of the car, that's a horse rail. So in one image, you get to see that transition happening from right to left, and obviously the old cool cars and stuff. A little bit of information we have on this. Oh, it looks like we even knew it was August of 1941. Oh, we had both automobiles and horses on there. I don't know if anyone knew Harley Winkleman, but that was his barbershop on the left. Besides selling meat and dry goods, there was also clothing, radio repair, gifts, school supplies, a gas pump, Harley Davidson motorcycles, and a post office. Yeah, look at that. And I think I got some of this information from Ken's book in the back there. So thank you, Ken, for that. Ken and Carl Curtis's book is where a lot of this came from.
I think in the back of the building was a railing went up, and there were 2 old women that used to live there. Lizzie Nimble and Verona Dunkel was a music teacher, lived up there, and they both worked out in the store when I was a kid.
So Ray mentioned that Lizzie Nimble and Verla Donkel lived at the top of this building. There was a stair in the back. When you were a kid, what decade is that, Ray, that you're talking about? Like what decade do you think that was that they were living up there? Would it have been 60s, 50s?
60 years ago or more.
Okay, so maybe 1960s-ish. Okay, so tell us about the fire truck.
Well, as most of you probably know, Keith Miller was a huge part of the Verona Fire Department, and had a run at being the Verona Fire Chief. This fire truck is actually still in possession by the Miller's family, and you will see it at things like the hometown parade. We just decorated it and had Mr. and Mrs. Claus ride on it to meet the reindeer. It was parked in our parking lot this winter, with Christmas lights on it. It is fully functioning and running, which is really special. And then the Chief Miller on the front of it is actually his patch from his fire helmet that is still hanging in the little dining cafe area at Miller's. We wanted to include that with it, so we tried to work out like, how can we get this fire helmet with this fire truck? And then finally the idea was just to take the patch off the front and make it a new grill.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chad, that's a lot of lettering there, huh?
This was done with paint marker just for the patch, because that's extremely small for such a large mural. And I tend to stay away from doing things with brushes or markers because it takes away from the overall image if you're doing it mostly with aerosol, and it kind of can make it look wonky. But I felt like it was very necessary here specifically because we had so much emotion that we wanted to bring forth, mostly gratitude. And even now with anybody on the fire department, what they go through and their families and what they sacrifice for us, we really wanted to bring that to the front too. So that part was done with a lot of extra care. And as you can imagine, it's not very easy to photorealism a fire truck, especially with spray paint, but it actually went up pretty quick and pretty easy.
Oh, and this one, interestingly enough, this is the only one. Amber, where did you find this one? Because this did not come from our collection. Was this one in Carl's box, or?
No, this one is hanging in the cafe. So there are multiple family pictures, older pictures when it was Stuart Miller, Miller's, and then we have a wall dedicated to Keith. So there's all of his fire memorabilia is hanging on that wall.
Cool. And this little history snippet, I think someone at Miller's provided, the one I'm about to read, but Keith was Verona's village president from 1957 to 64, volunteer fire chief in Verona from 1953 to 1974. That's a good stretch, 21 years. Keith and his crew accomplished many great things. They are responsible for bringing a lot of simple fire safeties to Verona we take for granted, such as a new fire truck, radio frequency communications. That's nice, just gotta ring the bell. Keith was kind and generous, known for turning in his allotted volunteer chief pay back to the village each year. And he served in the Verona Fire Department for 40 years and is still there, and was their longest running volunteer chief. And I loved seeing the fire truck at the event.
Yep.
It was there. There's a picture on the bottom right as it was driving out past it. Great. Who knew Keith? I think I asked this before. Yeah, that's right. A lot of people did, right? Amazing. Now we're at the end here. This is, there's many names for this building. Amber, why don't you tell us about why you picked this one?
So the auditorium, I didn't know anything really about this building until we found some pictures and talked to Carl a little bit about it. But this was like the center of fun for Verona back in the day. People after work would go there and hang out with their friends and their neighbors and spend some time with each other and relax and dance and eat and just have a good time. And I think that when I think about Verona now and all the new little businesses on Verona, like these are meaningful, fun, new places for our new neighbors. Like there's so many new neighbors coming to Verona with the apartment buildings going up. We see them at Miller's all the time, and we hope that they are happy with their new community, but having these extra little places on Main Street or even outside of Main Street for neighbors to get together, enjoy a meal, have a drink, do a little dancing, talk about life. That's kind of why we picked this one.
Yeah, good call. Any special memories about this one, Chad, before we go on to the dog and the tractor?
This one is super meaningful to me.
Really?
This building is actually where I asked my wife's father if I could marry her.
What?
Yeah, it was just one afternoon. I knew that he was going to be down there watching the game and having a drink, so I coordinated perfectly to swoop in there and ask for his daughter's hand in marriage. His name is Robert, or better known as Bobby Owen, Bobby Ann. I think he's more so from the New Glarus area, but he lives in Verona and actually a block away from Miller's. So I did want to make sure that this building came out good as well. One other thing about this picture is the supermarket, where it says that underneath the T and the Y. That's also on a wooden plaque, kind of like the beginning where it says Miller and Sons, which is again a resemblance of the Stewart and Miller wooden plank that's in the actual store. So go check that out sometime the next time you're there.
Wow, that was in cahoots, I guess, huh?
Cahoots, that's
Cahoots. Okay, so this is, I only got a couple sentences here, but we could be here for an hour if we talk about this building. It's such a cool building. It's the iconic Verona building at 102 West Railroad Street, home of Cahoots. It's believed to date back to the late 1800s. We've never been able to find any documentation on when this thing was built, but someday we will. We all recall a long line of restaurants, bars, hotels. Maybe the most memorable was as the auditorium through much of the 1900s. So according to Ken's book, who's sitting in the back there, in the 1930s, the auditorium contained 1 bar, 2 dining rooms, 13 rooms for rent. Free movies were projected outside on the building seasonally, attended both by nearby residents, downtown residents, and farm families who came on the weekend. We got a picture of this we're going to show you at the very end. And let's play I call this the auditorium game. Let's see how many names of this building we can all remember in this crowd. I mentioned Cahoots Auditorium. Who's got some other ones? Yell them out.
Barbed wire and doghouse.
Barbed wire, doghouse. What's that? Ann's Corners. What else? What's that?
The Broken Spur.
Broken Spur. Okay. Wow. Did we get them all?
My dad's brother used to own that place.
Really, your dad's brother used to own it?
Yeah.
What was his name?
Alex Herfel.
Oh yeah, please go ahead.
One other thing that I guess I haven't been too hip to telling you guys is in this picture, if you look at the letter T in the top right corner, you will see a pipe. And it's pretty hard to disguise some of the things through our building like that are essential parts of the building. But throughout there, I've tried to hide a vent and a couple of pipes. So be on the lookout for some of those, and you might not even have known.
Well, we're going to go to the end now of the mural, which has got a lot of really cool, interesting things that I want to hear the stories about. I tried to fit it in one picture, so if you all want to use the pointer, Amber, do you want to use, if you have any parts you want to talk about, or is this all Chad, these ones?
Nope, so these are Miller.
Okay. Here, this is a laser pointer, this bottom button there, if you want to,
Okay.
the bottom one.
So we'll start, well, as you can see, the bike trail is going across here. Dana thought that the Military Ridge, I think that's what it's called, bike trail was really important to Verona, starting at the railroad and then just the amount of people that use it. I know at Miller's we sell bike passes and we sell a ton of them. So this was just special in the way that something for kids and adults and families to enjoy. So we just wanted to kind of put that in there. This little cat is symbolic to Greg. He was a cat lover. He always had a cat, and now I think Carl actually has his cat. After Greg passed away, Carl took his cat in and actually got a second one because Carl thought that he needed a buddy, and Carl's never been a cat guy, so there's that. This is a little schoolhouse, symbolic to the Miller mom, Dorothy. She was an English school teacher and then went on to be a librarian. So that little thing is for her. This tractor is for Keith and Ace Miller. We're both farmers. Ace and his son Billy, who runs the Mount Horeb store, both reside at farms today. So that was a meaningful little thing for them. The dog driving the tractor is symbolic to Andrea. Both Andrea and Carl are fierce dog lovers.
Oh, no way.
Andrea actually put up a dog kennel in the front of Miller's just to make sure that dogs were safe and not sitting in hot cars in the summer, and goes out there and puts bowls of water, fresh water out there for them because she is truly a dog lover. The four-leaf clover as the tire wheel is symbolic for 4-H. The Millers have always supported 4-H and FFA programs. Carl is the sponsor to Dane County Fair's ribbon and trophy program every year. So this little thing was for that. And then of course the pond, which became kind of an afterthought. Like this was the last thing. We actually had words here before. But when we really got started thinking about, we did all these little things for all of the Millers and we didn't really have anything for Carl. So this little pond is for Carl.
What did the words say? Was it a slogan or
Oh,
something?
it said,
It was for the community, serving the community since
Okay, so-
1902.
oh
Serving the
yeah,
community.
something like that.
Serving the community since like 1902.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Chad, do you want to mention? I noticed every time you look at this, you see something. And today, when I was making this picture, I noticed the worried look on the fish's face. I'm sorry I didn't get a zoom in of that, but that is one worried fish. Can you talk about this whole section here?
This was one of the final pieces. The shopping cart was the final part, but this was second to last. And like Amber said, it was a kind of a design change that we all thought was necessary. And originally they were like, should we do a portrait of Carl? But
We
it was-
really wanted a picture of Carl.
But we, figured we'd give the old guy a break and instead put him in a boat. And when I did this, I was, wondering how could I make this part fun because it seems a little bit separate. It's on a slope part, so there was a couple challenges here. The road slopes down to go to their delivery area, and as you can see, there's a door that's also included. So there's a few things that are
Oh, you're right there. There's a door there.
pretty good at hiding.
That's
things
the
like
pharmacy
that.
door.
Oh, that's the pharmacy door. Oh.
And they use it daily.
Yes, quite a few times, even when I was doing the murals, they used it. So I had to be conscious of that while I was working. But the fish has a terrified look. He's trying to get the heck away from Carl, which, as you might be able to tell, is sleeping on the job. So fish doesn't really have much to worry about, but he does look nervous. And it's kind of difficult to give that kind of a feature to a fish that's just in two-dimensional space. So it was fun to do, and that's probably one of my favorite parts of it.
I can't unsee it now when I look at that fish. So I want to check time real quick. It's almost 2. What time does the Badger game start, Mom and Dad?
2:30.
2:30. Okay, we will wrap this up by 5 after, because I know we're all Badger fans here too. But I want a couple last questions before I show the real historical photos, and if anyone wants to leave before, that's fine. What's the lifespan for a mural like this, and is there maintenance? Do you have to go every year and touch things up? What are you expecting for the future of this mural, Chad?
Well, seeing as this was the biggest mural that I've ever done, I wasn't really prepared for the clear coat needs. So in order for me to put the clear coat on, it would have been a lot more equipment than I have.
What's a clear coat?
A clear coat is basically just a coat that goes over the whole mural that protects it from a lot of different things. It could be vandalism, it could be the weather. But again, Jacob from Hometown Painting, that guy came with all of his equipment and knocked it out. So it was a community effort to really get this mural on. With that, I also used very high quality acrylic paint. It's made specifically for outdoor murals. It's a German paint company. And Germany has been a little bit more progressive with the large-scale building murals than we really have been, especially in the small towns that we live in. So I've been using this for a long time now, and I haven't been along long enough to see any one of them degrade, but I imagine we'll get over 100 years on this, especially being clear-coated. I can hope so, but again, with me only, I don't want to give out my age, but I haven't been alive long enough to see the progressive abilities of the paint that we use today in mural projects. So.
Well, I'm going to take a couple minutes to just show the actual photos. There's 6 of them, and then I want you guys to give your final thoughts before we wrap up. But we've already talked about the history of them. Here is that likely 1880s-ish picture. There's the folks there, Amber, that we were talking about, kind of just hanging out, maybe waiting for a train to come in. There's a cart there with nothing on it. There's some package or something. And there's fellow hanging out by the telegraphy office too. I wonder if that's someone who works there. And Cahoots would probably be around here. It could be just off the right, the auditorium building. I tried to use that to date this building, or this picture. And then there's our dirt South Main Street going by. Next picture, the water tower. I know you all can't read this, but this is an article that was in a scrapbook someone donated to us, who had clipped, Verona is on its way towards getting a bigger and higher water tower. The new cone-shaped tank will rise 148 feet to its very top and hold 300,000 gallons. Actually, I should have said it's still one we have today. I don't know, anyone who's been here, did we ever replace that water tower? You probably would have noticed them tearing the thing down. It's probably still the same one, right? Okay, kind of thinks it is. I'm sure they've repainted it several times. So here's the picture that you used. Here's another one where there's Verona on there already. This is from 1973. There was another article we had of some kids who painted something unfavorable on the old one. Got caught and had to go back and paint over it. That was great. I couldn't find one today. And then, Carl Curtison's book has some more information on that. It looks like the new one cost $143,000 to remove the old tank and put the new one up. That's in $1973, so that'd be quite a bit more today, I'm guessing. Here is that picture. There's the August 1941, I think we got off of that at high resolution. You can see a bit more of the buildings and then there's a little bit more, you can see Winkleman barbershop there, cool old cars. Here's just a picture that you provided, another picture of Keith there and the fire truck. And then here's a little higher resolution of the auditorium. There's a horse carriage in front, there's people hanging out. This building to the right, which is in several of the old pictures. And on the north side, around this corner, well, first off, remember this bend here, this corner here, and there's wood siding there. But here are people on the north, I've been told the north end, watching a movie projected, where people come and here is a maybe 1930s era postcard of the inside bar there. Here's one of the two dining rooms. The phone was 28. Andy Clark owned it, I think, from the 30s for a decade or two. And now this guy is Kurt. Kurt owns the current iteration in there, Cahoots, and Kurt was moving some plaster off and found an old Andy's place and part of a mural that was there from Andy Clark in the 1930s. And he put this cool plexiglass and lighting. So if you go into Cahoots, look to the left, and you can see some remnant from that owner of the pictures we just saw, and that's amazing. And the last thing I want to mention, if you zoom in on some of the pictures, the old pictures, you see this wood siding on that curve. That's now filled in, and there's like a cooler in there. But if you go in there, and Kirk took me in there, you can still see the old wood siding. Like it's still there, which is awesome. And I think that is the end of the pictures, but do you want to mention anything you want to, now, I got excited when you said 100 years. I'd love to be, I'll be here, I'll let you know if it makes it or not, but do you guys want to, here you go, mention any kind of closing thoughts or what this project's meant to you?
I just thought it was really fun and special and seeing history of Verona. I'm not from here, but hearing Carl's stories about Verona, I am really trying to get him to come to one of your guys' meetings and bring some pictures, but he is a very, very humble man who does not like to talk about himself, but he does love all of you and his community, and that's that.
Right on. Chad, is there another big project coming up? Is there another big project, Chad? Or have people contacted you about this since you put it up there?
Yeah, I think it's just like any other time that I do a big mural that's publicized, like the Nuclearist one was as well. When a lot of people see it, they do get a hold of me, so I do get contacted pretty regularly. As far as what I have in the mix, I'm going to try to do some of my own work and see how that sells too. So
okay.
I think I'm going to try to get some of that sculpting done and see if there's a market for that. That's kind of what I'm going to do.
Oh, someone asked where is the Nuclearist mural, and I'll say what is it of too?
It's on 2nd Street, and it's of, so it was a kind of like a competition that the village sent out, and they knew they wanted to do a mural, and they worked with the owner of Albion Swords, because I think that's who owns the actual building, but they wanted to liven up the community a little bit, so they sent out a request for artist submission. And one of my neighbors kind of gave me the elbow and said, you know, you live in town, you need to submit it. And so it's of what my impression is of the community based off of living there as an implant. But they did say, hey, we would like a few things in here. The submission has to include, and it, you know, came with like a brown cow and, you know, a Swiss home and, yeah, the Alphorns and the Albion sword. So I don't want to give away much. It's a fun thing to look at and kind of see if you can find some of those Easter eggs in that just by looking it over. I do know the gentlemen who were playing the Alphorns in the mural. So if you see those, it is George and Hines. They played for me while I was doing the mural. It's super fun. Take a day, go to New Glarus, spend some time shopping around. They have a lot of cute shops, a lot of historic stuff, and there is music played throughout, whether it's Alphorns or just Swiss-influenced music around the little shops. It's a fun place to be, and so it'll brighten your day when you see it.
What street is it on though?
2nd Street.
Second Street.
Yeah, right across from the Odd House. It's kind of by Toffler's too. So
You didn't sign this mural, did you? Sometimes artists put a big.
I did sign
What is
this.
there a little? Do I have to look for it? Another Easter egg.
Really tight.
Okay, see if you can find the Chad Caso.
Yeah, it's the bottom left and the bottom right. And
Okay.
it's with a paint marker. And part of the reason is because this mural wasn't about me
Yeah.
in any way other than in cahoots that I proposed to my wife, or that I asked for her hand in marriage from her father there. But nothing else was really so personal that I felt I needed to leave a large mark.
Yeah.
I mean, there's enough that's going to be documented about this mural. I think it's kind of another contribution that I could give to. So.
Well, awesome. I think what we'll do is we'll end the meeting. If you all want to come up and ask more questions, we can hang out for a couple more minutes. And but you guys, thanks not just for coming today, but for making this thing happen. It is so much fun. I still look at it every time I go by. It's been there since August.
Yep.
Still look at it every time, and now we've got even more things to look at in the mural. But let's, thanks Amber and Chad for coming today.
You bet.
All right.